change of rhetoric around the grooming gangs today, isn't it, from Suella Braverman and Rishi Sunak, to say we're not going to be preoccupied with cultural sensitivities. We're just going to point a finger at those who are committing these crimes and do something about it. Why that shift now, do you think?
Look, I think what this is about is the government trying to create a bit of a sort of culture battle, if you like, over this issue. There was some Home Office research that was published in 2020, and it said, although that there was a particular issue in Rochdale, Rotherham and Telford, where the perpetrators of the gangs were predominantly British Pakistani, in general, you cannot say across the country that grooming is an issue with one particular ethnic group. There are no links between ethnicity and this form of offending that could be proven. That is Home Office Commission research that was published in 2020. And I think it's very important to say that there are many perpetrators of this type of offence who are white, and there are victims who are not white, who may be black or Asian or from another ethnic group. I think that's very important to say that. I think what the government is doing is saying, look, you have to go after the perpetrators, whatever their ethnic background, and that is clearly right as well. You can't let political correctness get in the way. But I think what the government is doing and the way that they're sort of angling this is really to try and draw some kind of cultural divide between them and the opposition, and to make it a bit of an issue, if you like, for political reasons. That's what I think. Although I do think that having a focus on this issue is really important, and bringing the police forces together with a new task force is probably something that's long overdue.
Danny, at this point, we know that most sex offences are carried out by white men, but then what is the ethnic population here? 14.5%. Inevitably, it would be more white men. Isn't the point about the gangs, what the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister are saying is predominantly the grooming gangs that have gone to prison in the last decade have been predominantly British Pakistani men?
Well, I think what the Home Office research showed from 2 years ago, and I've got it here in front of me, is that the links between ethnicity and this form of offending could not be proven. That was Home Office research that a newspaper had to sort of chisel out of the Home Office under a Freedom of Information Act request because it wouldn't release it otherwise. So I do think we have to be very careful. There are clearly, as I've said, been particular issues in some locations with British Pakistani perpetrators, forming those gangs. But I think to make this an issue around colour or race, I think personally is a mistake. And I think is dangerous. This is an offence, and you should go after the perpetrators, whatever ethnic group, whatever background they come from, and go after them with a coordinated approach, which hopefully the National Crime Agency will be able to bring.
When you listen to people like Maggie Oliver, and also one of the ladies that's spoken out repeatedly, Sammy Woodhouse, who is a survivor of the Rotherham abuse, she's superb at articulating the problems that she faced and how ignored she was. There was a problem, and I'm using the past tense. I don't know categorically now whether this continues. There are people in those communities who say that this continues. There was a problem that police officers were not getting involved in these allegations because of cultural sensitivities, wasn't there? Because, of course, the police are always frightened of being accused of being racist or of being discriminatory against any particular group. So there was an issue that needed to be addressed. Has it gone away, do you think? Or will this statement today help that to go away?
I think what helped it was the inquiry into child sexual abuse, which reported last year, and which has exposed how those issues around cultural sensitivity, political correctness, whatever term you wish to apply to it, did get in the way. And I hope that is a wake-up call to police forces and other authorities. Police in particular have to police without fear or favour. Doesn't matter who you are, they have to go after people, whatever their position in society, whatever ethnic background. So hopefully that isn't happening, and it won't happen in the future. The government's clearly underlining it with what it's saying today, but my slight concern over the way that they're sort of angling their announcement is that they're wanting to create a sort of a divide for political reasons.
The police officers, though, Danny, because we've just had Dame Casey's report. The headline from that was, "The police is institutionally racist." And then you have Suella Braverman saying these gangs need to be pursued, regardless of what might appear to be racist behaviour. Very difficult for individual police officers to know how to get that balance right.
Well, I mean, Dame Louise Casey's report, Baroness Louise Casey's report, was concerned with the Met Police, the Metropolitan Police, not the entire police service of the UK or indeed England and Wales. And institutional racism in its processes. Some officers are racist, she found in the Met, and the systems and the complaints procedure and so on. There were sort of processes within there that suggested that it was institutionally racist. I think that's quite different from some officers in other parts of the country who have been worried about going after particular grooming gangs or particular types of crime because they're concerned about cultural sensitivities or stirring up problems. Neither of those is right. Police have to approach every single case based on the evidence and where it takes them, no matter who the individual is, no matter what their ethnic background or where they come from, and so on. And that has to be their approach. And you see some fantastic investigations by police where they do that quite clearly, and they've fallen short in some of those historical inquiries that we've seen. But basically, this should be an effort that is focused on the perpetrators, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Just finally, Danny, also, I hear what you say about the perpetrators. We shouldn't forget the real tragedy here, the victims who were ignored. Their cries for help were ignored by social services, schools, and the police. Often they were from broken homes, living in care. I think some of the girls attempted suicide. They were completely let down by the system.
Absolutely. They were let down, not just by the police, but by other authorities as well. And that's why it's so important that you have an approach whereby you go where the evidence is. And you cannot be deflected from that. It's also very important that when you launch an investigation where you know that perhaps there may be some people who are disturbed because it could raise local sensitivities, you bring the community with you and you explain to the community what you're doing. You're there to root out wrongdoing, criminality and so on. And that's the way that actually you approach these investigations. You bring communities with you as well as going without fear or favour.
Thank you, Danny. Crime commentator Danny Shaw there.